Like I said, we have some new technology today, so I need to figure that out. Okay. Can you see it again, Grant?
Yeah, you're good, Roel.
Yep.
Grant is our specialist, confirming that my presentation is all right. So what we're going to talk about today is defending the circle, defense inside the circle, a little bit about positioning, and again, I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm not saying that this way is the only way. This is a vision that I use with a lot of my teams on how we want to defend the circle and which things I think are important. A lot of things will be general, but other coaches will highlight different areas that they find important. As we have some new people, a quick introduction of who I am again. So my name is Roel. I'm the High Performance Director for Field Hockey Alberta. I am head coach of the University of Calgary Dinos. I'm originally from the Netherlands, from Hockey Club Den Bosch. I spent over 10 years of coaching in the Netherlands in several clubs, smaller clubs and bigger clubs. And I'm currently living in Calgary. So that's really quick who I am, but it is not about me. If we're talking about defense and offense, and I really like this picture. We see a road that's going straight, and we see all kinds of different roads leading towards the same path. So if our destination is in the end, and a forward's destination is to score goals, often they will try to take the straight path towards the destination. So to go to the destination for a forward is often the net, to go straight to the net. In defense, or as a defender, or in playing defense, we want to put a stop to that straight path to the net. So that is the thing that we're going to talk about in this presentation. The goals during this presentation is that we want to recognize what the hotline is. So I'll explain what the hotline is in a second. Realize the importance of the hotline and hotline defense, and having more insight in how to defend inside the circle. So far clear for everyone? I see some people starting a chat. During the share screen, I won't be able to read the chat. The hotline. Does anyone know what the hotline is?
Is it like in the defense, the one area that you don't want like, it's the most, I don't know how to describe it. It's where the attackers, never mind. It's like the most dangerous part of the defense.
That is correct. So if you think about the picture that I showed before, this one, and the attackers want to go to the destination. Which roads of these roads do you think is the hot road or the hotline?
It's the direct line to the goal.
Yes. Yes. So if we want to describe the hotline is the shortest line between the ball and the goal. So if you draw a line from the ball to the net, that is called the hotline. In Holland and in some other countries, it's also called the ball goal line, because it's the line between the ball and the goal. So if we look at this picture, if you are a player A1 and player A1 has the ball, the black line would be the hotline. So if blue is attacking the net, black is the attacking hotline, and if we're defending a net, black is the defending hotline. If the ball is with player A2, the green line is the hotline, and if the ball is with player A3, red is the hotline. So far, the hotline is a quite simple principle. As an attacker, you want to go preferably straight down the hotline towards the net. And as a defender, like we saw in the first picture, you want to be in the hotline, because if you're in the hotline, the opponent cannot score. For today, for the people that were in previous seminars, we talked about the different zones in the field. So today, we're mainly going to talk about zone 0, zone 1, and a little bit about zone 2, and the hotlines in those zones. We do that because the principles in zone 0, 1, and 2 are quite similar all over the world and in different teams. The moment we go to zone 3, 4, and the opponent's circle, there's a lot more coach perspective coming into place, while the rules in zone 0, 1, and 2 are more basic and more clear. So a little repetition of what we discussed 2 weeks ago. In zone 2, the zone, no, I don't have a cursor, that's strange. In zone 2, so that's the zone in our own half, outside the 23-meter area. We want to slow the game down. We want to intercept if possible, but it is important to break down and block the play. And this is all when the opponent has the ball. In zone 1, we want to deny the opponent opportunities, and we want to defend the circle. And this is already where we go to man. In zone 0, which is our own defending circle, we want to defend the goal. We want to play man-to-man defense, and players need to be rebound ready. So, hey, I got my mouse back, that's good. So if we talk about hotlines, it's a quite simple principle. It's the line between the ball and the net. So in this case, team red is attacking to the right. Team yellow is attacking to the left, so it's defending the net over here. And if we start the footage, we will see that right now, this player has the ball, and I hope we can see it, is that this orange line is currently the hotline. So this is the line that yellow wants to defend and orange preferably wants to play that. However, the hotline principle is a little bit more complicated than that, because we now have 7 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the second quarter, and see how fast the hotline actually changes during this attack.
And here is Keena out.
So we're now at 7:09 left, and the ball has transferred by a pass and is now over here and has created a new hotline. So a new line to defend for Team Yellow.
So Damon has some space inside.
Pass inside the circle, which creates another new hotline, because now the ball is over here. So now this is the hotline.
Damon looking for back.
And finally, the last second of this shot, the ball is over here, and it creates another new hotline.
Good shot.
So if we look at that from the start, in a time span of 4 seconds, we have 4 different hotlines, and that's why defense can be so hard to play. Ball starts there, it's a pass, creates a new hotline towards the net. Ball gets passed again, a new hotline, and right now there is a defender inside the hotline. Is not inside the hotline, that's debatable. So the situation keeps playing, and now there's just the goalie in between the ball and the hotline. So with 4 passes in 4 seconds time, we created 4 new hotlines, and that's what makes defending difficult. So passing is one way to change the hotline. Here we have a different match between Holland and Australia, and for the new viewers, we will see. You will notice that I have a preference for the orange team, because a lot of the footage will be from Dutch players. So right here we have a different situation. The orange player here has the ball. So it's really clear that this is the hotline. Right now, the player runs to a different space in a time span of 1 second, in and about, and creates a new hotline. So not only by passing can you change the hotlines, but also by running the ball, you can change the hotlines. And this way, defense needs to keep adjusting. To make it even more complicated, another thing that we talk about is potential hotlines. Because not only has this player run from this space to that space and created a new hotline, there's also potential new hotlines from other players that when a pass comes in, that these players can get the ball and within half a second create new hotlines. And this is actually what makes defense so hard, is that there's so many options for the offensive team, and they often start with the initiative. So in this case, it's a shot on net. Great save by the goalie. He gets passed away. So let's watch that one at normal speed again, because the shot that we're seeing in a second, and I'll pause it again, sorry for that. This is a question that I get a lot from my players, is the ball, someone is running into the circle with the ball, there is another player inside the circle, I'm the yellow player, what do I do? How do I defend? And we'll get back to that later. So we see there's a new created hotline by the orange player on the top of the circle. There's 3 other potential hotlines and basically 3 defenders. There's a shot on net, great save, ball is gone. Beautiful save. So what happens if we don't defend the hotline correctly? So I have a couple of shots where it's really clear that there's no defender inside the hotline, which creates opportunities for offense. So we have the person with the ball over there, creates a hotline. We have potential hotlines. The one over there won't be that dangerous, but we've got one there, one there. There is an extra player that we don't see yet. So we have 1, 2, 3 defenders inside the circle. We have 1, 2, and another attacker inside the circle 2. We have a player over there that should be marking that one. This player should be marking that one. And hopefully this player will come into the hotline. If the white team is South Africa, it's not an ideal situation for South Africa, but it's also a manageable situation, or at least you would think, because we have players marked inside the circle, we have people responsible, and we have 2 players putting pressure on the ball. But what we'll see here is
the
that
semi-final.
the ball will go to the left to this player. The player will receive the ball, and we see how far this player actually was away from the potential hotline. So the distance between these players is quite big, and this player is a little bit too high. So when this pass comes in from this orange player to that orange player, and the player receives the ball, we are in a bad spot. So the player now has received the ball on this side. So if we look at what the hotline is, if the player goes to the backhand, the player will end up over there with the ball and will have a shot on net, which is not good as defense, of course. And that is mainly because this player is too far away. The things that I like about this shot, so we have good defense over there, we have good defense over there, and I don't know what this defender is doing. However, the situation escalates when this defender realizes that he's too late and he tries to overcompensate. Because in the end, from this situation, you want to make, as defense, you want to make the best situation possible. So for this player, going to the backhand and shooting from there is not good. But with pressure on the shot, everyone marked, the goalie can focus on the shot and make the save. But again, what we'll see is that this player overcompensates and tries to recover and actually jumps over the hotline. So instead of putting pressure on the ball, it jumps over, and we end up in this situation with no one in the hotline. This player is completely gone, and the goalie needs to adjust. There's no pressure on the shot because at this shot the ball is already gone, and the orange player has a full forehand to shoot. That makes a great goal. So we'll look at it again. Great goal. So the orange player would have a backhand shot normally from here. The defender, the white defender here is not close enough, which gives this player space. Player pulls it back to the backhand. White player oversteps, and when the shot comes in, the orange player has a full shot on the forehand with vision on the net and a moving goalie. I got to give this player a little bit of slack. This player is Austin Smith, actually a friend of mine, and this is Robert Kamperman, and is one of the better players in the world in shooting his backhand. So I kind of understand why he was going to go full on for the backhand shot. But by overcommitting, the goalie needed to move, and a moving goalie is often a weaker goalie, and this shot opened up. It's a beautiful net ball. Received, oversteps, free forehand shot, and a beautiful goal. Another example of not being in the hotline and not playing circle defense is
Whitten, good trap.
The goal we've seen last week from Australia, hitting a beautiful tomahawk. Let's wait till it starts again. What we'll see here is that the defender again is too far off and cannot anticipate into the hotline. The hotline, when this player receives the ball, is obviously from there to there. I think it's going to show it. Yep. So the hotline is completely open for a backhand shot, and really hard shot for the goalie to save. And I've got one more, and this is not entirely about the hotline, but more about circle defense. What we'll see here is a shot of the Netherlands attacking Korea, and where we see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 white defenders, 8 defenders of Korea inside the circle. But a lot of people are ball watching and focusing on the ball carrier instead of defending the potential hotlines. So there's enough players, but we're only defending the actual hotline. So when the pass from here to here comes in, there is no one in an area of almost 4 meters around this player that can defend the hotline. The player receives, can open up for the shot, and makes a beautiful goal through the legs of the goalie. The thing what makes this so hard for the goalie especially is that when this player comes in over here, the goalie that we cannot see right now needs to hold the post, because there are players around this, but if the ball goes in from here on the goalie's side, it is the goalie's fault. So the bad thing is that everyone is watching the ball, and when the orange player, hope we can see it, everyone is watching the ball, this player, eyes at the ball, eyes at the ball, eyes at the ball, that player is gone, this player is looking at the ball, so there's multiple defenders still left in front of the net. And instead of letting this defender do its work, this defender thinks that he needs to help, and he jumps in, while his actual job is the potential hotline, because the hotline from that player towards the net. And by the time he realizes, he's too late. So the goalie that was first at the post here now needs to move. And again, a running goalie or a moving goalie is often a weaker goalie. And when the shot comes in, the goalie's not ready. Player is completely free, takes a shot. So yes, the ball goes through the legs of the goalie, and that often is a bad situation for a goalie. But we also got to realize that the goalie needs to move, and we see the legs are open because he needed to come off the post. So the story of this shot is that even though we had the original hotline marked, we left the potential hotlines open, which still makes that the white team gets a goal against. So a lot of examples what we don't want to see, but what do we actually want to see? And that comes back to this picture that we started with, is there's a road straight to the net. We got to make sure that that is stopped, that there's no straight way to the destination for the attacker. So we put a stop on that, and every other road is going to be difficult. To have a quick look at the situation we just had, and I don't have a cursor right now, so that's too bad. But the player on the right has the ball. And this also comes down to what agreements you made with your goalie. But I think in 90% of the time, every coach is going to say the same. So if the player on the right would have the ball, and the red player on the left, on the top of the circle, is another attacker, and the blue player is a defender. As blue, where do we think we want to be? Has anyone got a guess? Manveer, I believe you're in there.
I am.
I am. So for Manveer as a goalie, Manveer as a goalie, what would you like at this point where your defender goes?
I would prefer the defenders coming down towards the stroke mark, so they're covering the pass, and can also, if needed, help put pressure to keep that right winger kind of at a bad angle.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what Manveer is saying here is what most goalies would want, and what most coaches want to do. So in the shot 2 shots ago where the orange player scores, we see that the player on the right bottom has the ball, and the players run towards the player. But what we actually want to do is leave that player partly for the goalie, and make sure that the potential hotlines, because the potential hotline right now can be more dangerous. So if the red player on the top gets the ball, or on the penalty stroke, that would be a more dangerous potential hotline for Manveer than the play that's coming down the baseline. So in this moment, the defender needs to make a choice. What is the most dangerous hotline? What is the controllable hotline? So where do I play defense? Another good example, or another one where I got a lot of questions, is the one right here. So imagine the player on the left, the red player on the left has the ball. We are defense, so we are the blue player, and there's another red player on top, and we have a goalie in net. So in this case, I often get the question, as a blue player, what do I do? Do I jump towards the red player on the left, or do I go to the red player on the right? Is there a defender in here that can have a guess what you should do?
You're going to want to step up to the guy at the top of the circle.
And why?
because it's more dangerous hotline coming from the top of the circle.
Absolutely. So what Grant is saying here is so that the player on the left has the ball. If Grant is the blue player and he would jump towards the left side, so towards the player that has the ball, and the pass goes to the player on top of the circle, there is a really dangerous potential hotline. So what Grant would do in this situation is, as a defender, he would go more to the right, to the person on the top of the circle, and let the player with the ball run towards the net and leave that shot for the goalie. Because if he would jump to the left, the player on the top of the circle would get the ball and would play a free one-on-one against the goalie. So there are different opinions about this subject, and I absolutely understand that. But I think that about 80% of the coaches will tell you to go to the right to mark that player and leave the player on the left with the ball, and even potentially let them enter the circle and leave that up to the goalie. So these are 4 rules that I use with a lot of my teams, and we call them the rules of de-escalation. Because like we had with one of the shots in the beginning where Holland was attacking Australia, or the other one where I don't remember which game it was, but we had a situation where one team was attacking the other team and we are defending. We need to make, as defenders, we need to make sure that we control the situation as much as we can. We de-escalate it, so it goes from a situation that is really bad into a situation that we can control, into a situation that we are in control and get the ball. So these 4 rules are the rules of de-escalation that I use a lot with my teams. And it starts with defend the most dangerous hotline and defend the net. So looking at this shot again, what is the most dangerous hotline? Where is the possible most dangerous hotline? And organize a man-to-man defense. So if it's one defender play against 2 attacking players, we need to analyze real quick in the game what is potentially the most dangerous hotline, how can we defend that, and how can we give the goalie the easy as possible hotline to defend, or the easiest possible shot to defend. When we got more players in, so when it's a 2 against 2, we want to defend as many hotlines as possible. When we have more defenders than attackers inside the circle, we still want to play man-to-man defense, but we also want to organize an extra player or a free defender that comes into the hotline and can help where necessary. And if that player is organized, that extra player can organize pressing on the ball. So a lot of theoretical words coming out of my mouth. I'll show some footage of a perfectly defended attack.
Canada will not want to lose.
So right here, I'm first gonna play it, and then we're gonna analyze it. So this is a situation, Malaysia against Canada. Canada is playing defense during the Ashland Cup in Malaysia. It's the final. Canada is, as you can see, is 2-1 up, and they are defending the net. And I'll just let the first one play. We'll watch it, then we'll analyze it, and then we'll watch it again. The ball coming to the left, attack from the left, defending the circle, and Canada recovers the ball. Show it again. So what have we just watched? Player here on the left has the ball. What I like is that there's a player inside the hotline that's defending the hotline. We know now that there's a white player over there. This red player is on its way to go there and mark that player, playing man-to-man defense inside the circle. So this is a situation where Canada is in the situation that, is it ideal because they're attacking us? No, because you never you want to have the ball and you want to attack the other side. So we got to de-escalate it. So this is where Canada makes the most out of a bad situation. The player over here has the ball. Most dangerous hotline is covered. We're playing man-to-man defense inside the circle. We've created a free defender, which in the end bounces the ball away. Then ball gets outside the circle. What I like a lot is that we play man-to-man defense. So the white player over there is marked inside the circle. Player over there is marked inside the circle. I personally would love if this player was a little bit closer and the free player over here was more in the hotline. What I do like is that there's pressure on the ball. So for me, if the player in the triangle would be a little bit closer, it can help this player over here more by putting pressure on the ball. So this player is a little bit too far away, in my opinion. But that's also because the white player made a good movement away from the net. What you will see is right here, the defender is marking this player really good. Maybe it could be a bit lower, but I'm fine with if he's defending like this. So we have a situation here. Look at this player. It's going to be a little bit too late. He's checking where he is. We could be a bit faster, but we get in a situation. There's pressure on the ball. We've organized man-to-man defense. We've covered the most dangerous hotlines. We keep pressure. There's an extra player coming in, and it steals the ball. So for me, this is a perfect example of how you should defend inside the circle or inside the 23. Does that make sense in general? Are there questions about this shot? No questions. Then we'll go to the next shot. Another good example of circle defense. It's Canada, Malaysia again. Canada on defense. What we'll see, ball is on the right. Player is inside in the hotline. There's a free player behind him. Ball gets passed through. Oh, sorry.
Bit of a green card.
Ball is passed through. This player is a little bit too late. In my opinion, it could be a little bit closer, but recovers really good. So there's pressure on the ball. There's man-to-man defense. Goalie has eyes on the ball, can make a little bit of space between him and the back line. Extra player comes in to pressure the ball. Gets help. Ball gets outletted. And if we for the players that and then coaches that were in the presentation 2 weeks ago, what I really like is that this player drops back in zone 1 to create the safe option to outlet. And we can go forward. Beautiful defense by Canada. Another situation.
That is a chance here.
So Argentina attacking Australia. Argentina attacking Australia. think I paused this. See if it pauses it. So we've got the player here has the ball. It's a 2 against 2 inside the circle. As defense, are we happy with the situation? Can anyone comment on it? Nate?
I think the defender should be standing outside the D, like the one who's coming up to challenge it, not invite her into it.
Yes, a really good point, Grant. So you're talking about this player, and this player should be over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. So if that player would be over there, would you be not happy, of course, because Argentina is on the attack, but would you be comfortable with this defense?
More than being inside of the circle, yes.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that if this player, like again, if the other team is on the attack, it's never favorable. But if this player would be outside the circle, we would have de-escalated as much as we can to eliminate the threat. It's a good point. It needs to be outside the circle. What I really like about this shot
That is a chance here.
is that once the shot has come in and it's come off the goalie, when Argentina gets the ball, there's this player that is going, I think it's her. There she is. Is putting pressure on the ball straight away and gets her stick inside the hotline. So again, it's not an ideal situation, but Australia is making the best of a bad situation as they can by stepping out, getting in the hotline, stick in the hotline, playing defense, and the Argentina coach is not happy. So again, this player to de-escalate should be outside the circle. We get a situation that we don't want, but there's pressure on the ball. Most dangerous hotline is covered. So a big difference with some of the shots that we saw in the beginning. Some questions. Good or bad defending? Anyone? Are we Argentina is attacking the right, as Australia we're defending the goal on the right. We are Australia. Are we happy with the situation? Is the hotline from the ball to the net, is that one covered? The ball is with the blue player on the left. I don't have a cursor right now. Is the ball goal line or the hotline, is that one covered?
The hotline for where the ball is right now is covered.
Mm-hmm. And
but
yes. Are you happy?
But there is a person wide open inside of the D, which is never an ideal situation.
No. So the potential hotline, the person inside the circle, is not covered. So let's see if we can. Oh, there it is. So if we look at this player is going to get the ball, and Grant is talking about this player over there. Australia here is ball watching and is looking at the ball. What's going to happen? What should this player do?
Not ball watch and get back to the circle.
That is correct. As a goalie, man, would you be happy with this?
No, I'm sure I'd be yelling.
I think you. I know you a little bit, and I think you will be screaming towards this player.
Yeah.
So
Support on the left.
So what we see indeed is this is not a good situation. It is not a good example of de-escalating. The ball is on the left. There is someone in the ball goal line, but this is not the most dangerous hotline right now. this player over here should be marking that player instead of ball watching. And what we see, what happens, I don't know what this player in this case was thinking, but there's no support, no whatsoever. Just runs behind the goalie. One tip for players, a goalie is wearing protective gear. So the goalie should be protecting the net. Don't think because you're there, you need to be the goalie. Yeah? The goalie would have, in my opinion, would have more support by you coming to the side and blocking off the side. So in this case, make sure there's pressure from one side instead of running behind the goalie. I think, Manny, you agree over here, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So players, don't pretend you're a goalie. In this case, your job is putting pressure on the most dangerous hotline. So get over there and don't, like this player does, run behind the goalie. Because you're not helping the goalie. That's a goal against. Beautiful goal, though. Another situation, and I'll see if I can get a better shot in.
Now Rebecca's got it round.
So we got a player here on the left. Player defending, that's good. I want to go too far. So right now, good or bad situation? Are we happy what's happening over here? Is there pressure on the shot?
There's good pressure on the shot, but the defender in by the stroke mark needs to be in front of her man.
Absolutely. So the situation here again, we're quite happy with. You know, there's somehow what of a double on the ball. Yes, the yellow defender is a bit too late, but that is because what we just saw, she's pressuring the player to the outside. Here's the player. She holds the inside, so she pressures the player to go outside, which is good. Good defense. The shot comes from a position where the goalie in general should have the shot. So this player has done a good job. This player here is trying to double or is trying to help, which is good. At least he's running back. I'm kind of lacking defenders running back here. This player here right now, yes, she's marking, but she's marking on the wrong side. She should be over there. And in this case, what we'll see, there is no goal. I think this is a beautiful shot. This player over here should be on this side, that it can intercept the ball or put pressure on the ball. Because if the blue player over here would have touched the ball, there's no way that yellow has the possibility to get in the hotline or to put pressure on the hotline, and it would have been a goal. So starting with if we look at what we know now and we look at the shot that we started with, which was the attack from Holland on Australia. I wonder, in general, if we are happy with what's happening or if we are unhappy with what's happening.
Fine, she does find Lauren.
So can we say, and I have a strong opinion about this, can we say in general that the shot that we started the presentation with, do we think this is good defense, bad defense, good de-escalated, bad de-escalated? Are we happy in general what happened, or are we not happy the way Australia defends?
if you like leaving people unmarked, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Explain.
Well, part of it is just identifying that there are people on the non-ball side. So the midfielder should have, and the defense should have slid back towards intercept position in those.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's ball watching again, getting back to that.
Mm-hmm. And so right now,
Eee.
yeah, it's not a good situation. But do we think it is in the way we are de-escalating? Is it good or bad?
I think I see the defender in the circle take a quick shoulder check and saw that there's some potential hotlines that she can get in the line of, because she's like, I'm pretty sure she figured out there's nothing she could do about the shot, and that's and from that position, that shot means the goalie had to move the least, so at least the goalie was ready for that shot. Not ideal. It's in the box where we don't want shots coming from, but the goalie didn't have to move too far to be set for that shot.
Yeah, and I agree with, I absolutely agree with the both of you, because Verla said in the beginning, this is not a good situation. We have a lot of players ball watching. It is not going as we want. Holland is in the attack, and there's 3 players. So it is a situation that we don't want. Then
The person in the back, part of it, she's in no man's land. So part of it, she could have made a decision earlier, and then prior to that, at least get some of her teammates back to help clog that middle. But she's in no man's land. So while she's attempting to de-escalate, it's too late.
Mm-hmm. So, and that this is interesting, because now we have 2 different opinions. We have the opinion where Verla says that this player should jump, and we have the situation where Manveer says that that Manveer says, I'm not happy with the total situation, but I'm relatively happy with the situation it's solved in the end. Correct?
Correct.
I do agree with where Manveer is saying that. I think if she'd made a decision to close the space a little sooner, not necessarily jump, but close the space instead of being in the middle, then it could have forced a decision. So had she pressed up to the higher attacker rather than one deep, then it could have changed where Holland decided to make that pass.
So you would have had her over there.
I would have the deep defender just drop a little bit, have the one that's closest to the 23 jump into that space. At least spoil the play.
So this player,
yep,
all over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mess up the play, because at least you get maybe a free hit, maybe a penalty corner. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I agree with both of you. I think my personal opinion on this one is that the situation is not ideal, but is de-escalated in a good way. This player tries to get into the hotline and loses the one-on-one. Yes, she overcommits, but she's trying to get into the hotline, and now she's outplayed. And now we have a situation where it's a 3 against 1. And this is where, again, we're not in a good situation, but where I'm happy with the de-escalation. I would rather have this player jump to that player now than go to the top, because if this player would jump to the top and this pass has been given, it's a 2 against 1 against the goalie. And we get a shot off, which should be a goalie shot, which is, and kind of is in an interesting way, but it's a great save. So I agree, Verla, here with you that I would prefer to have this player maybe play a bit later and make an accidental fall. I am happy with making the best out of a bad situation. If we go back to what we discussed 2 weeks ago, player playing a one-on-one on the top of the circle, the orange player is doing everything right, and the yellow player is trying to defend. Doesn't work out, but it happens as it is. gets outplayed. And here comes in for the shot, where I'm happy that maybe this play could be a bit more over there. But in general, if I was the coach of this team, and then again, it's important to know that with different goalies and different coaches and having different preferences, there are different ways to defend this. But if I personally look at my rules of de-escalation and how I like that my teams defend, I am not happy that we're getting a shot against. I'm not happy that we get into this situation and some defenders are not where they should be, but it is de-escalated in the correct way. So I'm in general happy with the circle defense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If I'm Netherlands, I'm upset with that 3-on-1 not converting into a goal. But yeah,
that's
defensively,
true. That's true. Well, so we've got 1 minute left. So what?
She does find
We've got 1 minute left, and this is the last shot, so we might be able to discuss it. I perfectly reached my hour mark again. I'm really proud of myself. If you were offense, what would you have done, Manveer?
I would have passed it first. I would have turned that into. I would have put more pressure on that deep defender. If I'm the person with the ball, I'm moving it, forcing her to make a decision, and then the person with the ball's got two options there to give it back to the passer or go down the line. Yeah. But yeah, I would have put that back defender on more of an island and put more pressure on her to make the right decision. And again, because I've got the numbers to come out with a better outcome.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's we look at one of the first shots of Camperman scoring the goal from this position. You can make this harder for this player. But it's good for the audience. It's a good shot for the audience. Everyone's on their feet, and for sure. No one gets of course Holland would have scored. Australia would have wanted to deal with this better. But in general, as a coach, I cannot be mad of either one of the teams.
Yeah, I'd want to clear a better save from the goalie too.
Yeah. So I think. My guess is that you would have wanted the goalie make the save and tipped it over the net.
Correct.
Yeah. So the shot comes in. The glove should have been a little bit more open, that it would be deflected over.
Up and over, yeah.
And then it would be gone. Recovery is great.
Absolutely.
We've reached our hour mark. We're actually a minute over. I hope we've all enjoyed today's seminar. Some basic principles. And again, listen to your coach. I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm saying this is one of the most used ways to defend inside the circle. There's a lot more to tell about defense inside the circle. But I think we've covered a lot, and I think we've covered enough for today. Are there any questions at this point? If there are no questions at all, I'm going to stop share the screen at first. And I'm going to thank you all for attending again. And I've